Oh, hey, driving intelligence community. I'm just sitting in the back of my 2002 Harley-Davidson F150, enjoying a cold one and appreciating this new power window I put in the back window. For many years, I wanted this. When I bought this truck new in 2002, I should have gotten that option then. It was the only available option for this truck. But one day I was walking through the wrecking yard. I saw a totaled 2002 F150, just like this. Not the Harley-Davidson, but I saw one like this. And it had this option. I pulled all the parts off for less than about $100, and I was able to install it. Everything works perfectly, and I'm happy. This truck is 100% complete. So I'm going to show you in this video how I got the parts installed, and thanks for watching. The other day when I was walking through the boneyard, I happened upon a truck that had this dash panel, and look closely, rear window. This truck had a rear window option, power window option on it, and I went ahead and pulled out the power window assembly, and it is just a bolt-in. In order to undertake this project, you're going to have already have installed a sliding rear window, and the vehicle should also already be pre-wired for the control. Now, the way to check to see if you're already pre-wired is to remove the headlight switch, disconnect it from its connectors, and look through the opening. And you should see, for example, in my truck, it was an orange connector taped down low inside that you're going to have to release and pull forward. That will connect into that power window switch, which is an item that you're going to need as well. The center window section is important, but you can use your existing center window if you remove the latch. You can't do this with the latch because the latch will obviously lock the window and you won't be able to open or close it with the control circuit. There's a slider that the window sits in. It's on the bottom, and this replaces it's, I guess you'll call it weather stripping or plastic that sits in the slot where your current window sits. That will come out completely. This slider allows you to clip into it the power window regulator. It has ends on it that clip into the bottom of this slider, and that's what pulls the window open and closed. You'll also need the power window regulator, all of the push pins that go with that, the mounting screws, there's clips that are needed, and obviously the wiring harness. And then finally, you'll need the front dash bezel, and as I already mentioned, you'll need the power window switch to go with that. And here's what these components look like. Here you see the power window regulator. It's bolted in. Here are the 3 bolts you'll need that hold it against the rear, and these trucks, the Super Cruise, are actually set up already with the slots. You just need, you can see there's a clip. Those are threading clips that will hold that on. You need to make sure you have both cables in good condition. The wiring harness here on the passenger side, you'll see the cable that controls this goes all the way up. You'll need this slider that the window sits in. You'll need to reinstall the gasket at the top. Here you need both ends of the electrical connection. If your truck is pre-wired, it should connect in. I had a problem. I went from, this was a 2-prong connector already in the truck to a 4-prong. I had to go back to the other truck and get the 4-prong and repin these 2 wires. And of course, you're going to need a proper bezel that goes around the dash, around the gauges, and also the switch. Interesting note before I get started, if you think you need the entire rear window for this power window install, you do not. All you need are certain components of this window, and to get to those components, I'm going to show you how to get that center window out. That's where we need to start. The first thing we want to do is open the window, which gives us access to the weather stripping. Now the weather stripping here on all 4 sides stays in the window. What we're trying to do is remove a piece of the weather stripping here. You can see it as I pull it back. And you want to use a pair of pliers and gently pull it out of the slot. Once that's done, you can just slide it out from the window. The reason for doing this, if you can see in this picture, there's a little piece of plastic that puts tension on the window so that the window cannot be removed from the outside. Now that this is out, all you need to do is lift the window and it pulls out easily. The next thing you want to do, because you won't need this, is this riding strip right here. This has to be pulled out. It pulls up similar to the way you pulled the upper stripping down. Grab it with a pair of pliers and gently pull it up. And now you've got access to this aluminum tray. I want to point out a couple things here. There's some locating tabs on the power window regulator that will go in that hole. These are drain holes on the left side or the passenger side as you're looking at it. And on the driver's side, those two holes are going to locate the cables on the power window regulator. For the painting part of this project, I've only got one trim panel to paint, and I'm going to use seam. This is what I'm told will match my Harley-Davidson interior, the black interior and black. But I'm going to start off with an adhesion promoter to make sure that it stays on there properly. It turned out really good. I matched up the paint. It looks fantastic. I put one of the switches in, but you'll see what happened here. That little blemish is because the paint that was on this panel was originally gray, was peeling off, and I thought I sanded it down nice enough. You don't want to sand it too much because there's a texture, but apparently right there in the center of the screen, that is the texture that's underneath the paint that Ford put on this panel. After installing this, I wasn't happy with the paint job. It's still not perfect, but it's much better. I sanded it down. Well, 3 times the charm. To get this panel out, this bezel, I've got to remove this trim piece that's above the steering wheel, and that just pulls out. It's not a screw-in type item. You have to take off the headlight switch, which you pry out from underneath here very carefully. And then there's a series of screws that removes this bezel. All the panels are removed. As you can see, right down there is the pre-wired electrical harness for the rear window slider. While I was at it and I had everything off, I took the opportunity to really clean up my lens, so that's a lot cleaner than it was. Get all that dust off, take the extra step. Okay, so the bezel is in, no scratches, thankfully, and now I just need to screw it in and finish the reassembly. Here's a little tip for putting this last piece in. If you turn it upside down and put it behind the column, you can flip it back in its proper direction. After the finishing touch, which is the switch, I have completed the control part of this installation, and I have to say that it looks original, completely OEM. Time now to put the rear power slider in, and in order to do this, I've got to pull out this entire panel. I've already started pulling some of the pins out, but this panel's got to come out because that hides the power window regulator. So I got to take the center console out. There's 2 bolts, 1 on each side, and I think there's 4 inside there that will allow that to be removed. That'll give me full access to get the panel out, and then I can begin installation of power window regulator. I've got the shell out now, and it looks like I may have clearance to get this back panel off, so I'm going to try to get the panel off without taking out this frame. The rear panel is now removed, and it gives me a lot of access. The motor actually attaches in these 3 slots, but I've got to take out more of the side trim. You'll see this trim here all needs to be taken out to get to the wiring harness. And I've also got to route the cable from the power motor regulator around through that area over there and up to the top. It'll be screwed into the channel up here. I've gotten all the panels out on the left side. On this one, you'll have to take off the seat belt. And you can see these clips. The direction of the panel to be pulled is toward the inside of the vehicle, not toward the front. So you want to pull it out gently toward the inside of the vehicle. No screws hold that upper panel in. There is 1 push pin that holds in the lower panel. And once you get that out, you can slide this belt through the slot that's given to you. And if you've got a power port back there, you just want to unplug it. You can see that I've got the motor sitting in here. I'm going to go ahead and bolt it in place and run this line to the passenger side of the vehicle. Right here is the connection from the front of the vehicle with the control switch. So I'm going to tie into that. That is already located on this motor right here. We're getting pretty close to at least having the motor installed and electrically connected. Ran into a bit of a problem while I was wiring this up. the harness, the electrical harness off of this window regulator. It has a square connection, but you can see that the wired-in harness from the truck is a rectangular with only 2 prongs. This one has 4. So I went back to the boneyard and I removed this from the truck that I got the motor from. Thankfully, it was still there. But I took this off, and I'm going to repin this connector with this. The connector is finished, and it looks absolutely OEM. Happy for that. Now I want to go into a little bit more of the operation of the window. There's a piece of weather stripping that goes in that aluminum slot. I've taken that out because we don't need that for the power window. And instead there's going to be another piece that goes in there, and I'll show that in a moment. But this has to be screwed in where I've already screwed some holes. That places this piece that is screwed down in a rigid position, and then that cable moves back and forth to pull the window, actually in this case, to a closed position because it's the passenger side. And I'll be doing the same thing on that side with a cable that will open it on the driver's side. I have the entire power window regulator in with all the cabling, and it's attached at the push-ins as it's supposed to be. I've got the rider that holds the window tied into the cables. I'm going to actually put some dry lube on here, silicone, just to make sure that it slides smooth. And now it's just it's going to be reassembly. Quick tip for you: there's a couple of push pins that are hard plastic, and it's most likely you're going to break them. I broke a few, and when I went to the boneyard to pick up that wiring connector that I needed, I went ahead and grabbed a few more of these. So you can see that these are in good shape, but I don't have it. I think I threw away the ones that are broken, but they break very easily. Here's where you see they go at the top of this trim panel above the seat belt, at least on the Super Cruise. Apologize once again for how dark it is in here. This is a black truck inside, extremely dark. So everything is reassembled now. You can see that the lower panel is first installed, then the upper panel. Only one push pin holds that in, and then there's a series of clips. They all push in that direction. Same thing is done on the passenger side, and then you just set this whole panel in, and there are 4 push pins and 4 bolts at the bottom. You can see 2 of them here once again. Reinstall your center console in the reverse order that I showed you. It's a really nice touch that Ford lighted up these switches, so once you plug this in, you don't have to add any relays or fuses. It's already all set up, the wiring harness, if you have the stock wiring harness, and it's complete. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give me that thumbs up, and please subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Driving Intelligence.